Hello, 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 my babies. Today's the day. Book number fucking three. 400 plus episodes. I know, I know. And this book is almost done. I still have one, two, I still have only 3 pages to basically work on. It's almost done. And I had already anticipated this, so a week ago I bought book number four. Excited. So, all right, so let's kind of like pick up and start engaging with the day. I had an interesting conversation right now with a taxi driver on my way to my parents' house. This is the setting in their house. And it was really a conversation about like how we are able to kind of like, I explained the situation in this country as basically somebody who's high on morphine all the fucking time. And it's because economically, like every couple of years, the vibe becomes, oh my God, it's so bad. It's never been this bad. And then 2 years later, they say the same thing. It's never been this bad. And my reasoning is always like, of course, it's getting worse. After 2 years, it's going to be worse. But what happens is like everyone kind of like, it's like taking morphine out of a system. Then you kind of like are hit with the anxiety of how everything truly is. And then after that happens, a while later, you kind of like put the morphine back in, so you kind of accept it. And that's how it fluctuates. Basically, everyone's like, no, what's going on? And then, yeah, what are we gonna do? And then no. So we were having a discussion about like how change is truly when people actually change instead of when we expect others to change. It's us, like it starts with us. And it drifted, or I drifted it basically to the conversation because when you're talking to an individual, the last thing you want to do is talk about others. You kind of want to dive deep into their own kind of like, I don't want to say self-image, but you want them to truly see what they're expressing and realize how they're expressing themselves. Because ultimately, that kind of realization would allow you to get closer to who you truly are, or to just be able to kind of like connect with yourself or who you truly are. And the conversation went from like how you actually listening to somebody is not really listening to them, but what you're doing is kind of like watching how you're triggered and the random triggers that are kind of like throwing at you. Because normally, when somebody's speaking, you start speaking as well, and that's a conversation. But if somebody is not fully in tune with themselves, then it's not really a conversation. It's just like talk. So the idea that I actually like got close to was like when you're actually listening to somebody, you're not really listening to them. Because if you allow somebody to speak, eventually he comes to the point, and by the end of his conversation by with himself, he kind of realizes that where he started and where he ended, and everything in between is kind of like his own journey to get to what he wanted to explain properly, to articulate. But when you're listening, if you're actually following his words, you start realizing that things that are kind of like being fueled by you, in you, by those words. So effectively, you're not listening to him or to her, whoever you're having a conversation with. You're listening to yourself. And as the conversation extends, you're noticing more and more triggers in you, and more things are kind of like popping up. And ultimately, you kind of like you're listening to yourself and having a chance because when you speak, you're interrupting your thought process. You're having the chance to actually articulate and like wire or connect. Like one of the followers of this channel on YouTube once explained it like the golden thread that kind of connects your thoughts together and kind of like reveals why they are like why you are the way you are. It allows you to connect to yourself, and it's just like the self-actualization that you can get through people, which is effectively the same thing you would have done when meditating. But when you're meditating, what you're doing is when you're approaching self-realization, you kind of like meditate or like question yourself. You don't have to because like when people are kind of like triggering parts of you, that's basically the look at this and look at this and look at this that you normally kind of like try to approach on your own. So I think God's blessing is actually the people in our lives, regardless of the more horrible they are, the more horrible. I don't. the more horrible they are, the more you realize the triggers that make you see them that way, or at the very least, that are not really being harmonious with how they are. Because ultimately, it's a perception, right? So if you're perceiving somebody as annoying, then ultimately, what is the thing that's annoying you, and why are you being annoyed by it? Correct? And ultimately, like, as you get over that, he's no longer annoying. He's just kind of like, meh, himself or herself. But today's video is, we see people as entertainment or benefit. A true connection gives us both at the same time. Yeah. So here, we see people as entertainment or benefit. A true connection gives us both at the same time. Uh, it very much sounds like a psychopath is writing this, but it's fine because like logical reasoning needs to kind of like be a bit void of the emotional response. I don't know, but so yes, so like I promote the fact that whoever's watching this channel is watching it for the sake of entertainment purposes. Like you can watch Netflix, you can watch people edit videos and movies and all kinds of shit, or you can watch some random guy have a discussion with himself online, right? Here, man, though, I point at something like kind of, I want to say beautiful. A true connection gives us both at the same time because it's the back and forth that's beneficial, right? But like, is there going to ever be a back and forth between anything that's not really like appealing to you? And I think that's why I use the word entertainment, because you kind of like you're finding a certain pleasure in being around these people, maybe, and that could be the sole benefit, or you going back a completely different person. Like you can go watch a comedy show, for example, and it could be pure entertainment, or you can watch a comedy show, like for example Dave Chappelle, and every once in a while he drops like fucking like golden nuggets, and you're like, what the fuck? And I use comedy shows on purpose because I think these are the modern day philosophers. I really think like the comedians are the people because they always find the shit that everyone kind of like allows to happen and they make fun of it, which kind of like triggers it in their head. And there's a beautiful video by a guy, I forgot his name. It's a TED Talk that discusses art in the form of just allowing the true presence of an artist is that it allows you to think about something different, to get out of your head, to do something different. But art is supposed to be a form of entertainment, or I think everything is art. And it's just like watching people plant a garden, I think that you can see the art and how they're actually like approaching it. Watching my mom cook, for me, is kind of like a work of art. It's the way she follows ingredients, the way her flow in the kitchen is. Uh, Watching my dad do woodwork or fly a plane. My dad's a pilot, by the way. And randomly friends kind of like switching from tabs and thinking differently and writing different notes. There's always that sense of like, wow, what am I looking at? And there's always kind of like, if you're truly into it, right? Because then you're only into it if there's a connection. And here, maybe I could actually like isolate the whole a true connection. Like the true connection means that both sides are interested, because, or at the very least, that a true connection. Well, does a connection really have to go both ways? Could a connection actually go, I'm connected to somebody, but they're not connected to me? Isn't that perfectly fine? Because it's not really like that. I'm not, okay, so I'm thinking of an electrical wire, but because it goes in one way. But my connection is not charging them with anything, it's charging me with something, but it's not really taking anything from them. And I feel a true connection is basically basking in other people's energy. When you're able to truly see or articulate or understand, see the art behind how their energy is manifesting around them, because it's always manifesting in what they're doing and how they're doing it, or what they're saying and how they're saying it. And I think a true connection allows us to kind of like understand or appreciate, allows us to appreciate a side of them, and this appreciation alone kind of like opens you to benefit from what you're seeing and to kind of like simultaneously be entertained. Because sometimes you kind of see somebody doing something and you're fully captivated, or you're having a conversation and you're fully captivated. And for me, I kind of like, I'm more interested in people in a way that only like kind of promotes what is captivating around them. So I feel like even though most people are not really connected to me, the people that are around me, I definitely see myself connected to them because it's always fun, even if it's something that's frustrating to kind of like watch. There's always something that kind of like comes out of it, and something that I learn and something that I benefit from. Why not? I think it's fair for me to see like people are entertainment or benefits, but a true connection actually kind of like has both of them. And how lucky can I be if I actually find somebody that reciprocates that connection and sees me as entertaining and benefits from me? It's a video.